Before I start, let me just do my disclaimer, as I always do. First of all, I'm mind blown that there's 7 people with me right now. 7 individual souls. This is the 12th week, and not once has it been empty. That's unfathomable for me. An idea that I had, a dream of mine, and to have kings and queens consistently turning up. It means the absolute world. And if you're new, thank you for joining. You're joining on a chapter, where hopefully it's not too out of context. We're going to be specifically talking about why in Buddhism, specifically, we have a mentor. And again, I always say this, I'm not trying to convert people to become Buddhists or to join the SGI, but today, when I'm talking about a mentor, maybe consider specifically, because I'm going to be talking about my mentor, Daisaku Ikeda, but maybe specifically think about someone that just really inspires you. It could be like a really powerful uncle, or friend, or an aunt, or something, like someone that's just living the life you really want to live, revealing the best potential of being a human. And so we're going to talk about that relationship, something that's very hard to understand when you come from the West. It's much more of an Eastern philosophy. So hopefully something that we can start to get our grips with today. So as always, let me just do my disclaimer. Thank you for being here. You're studying with me, Aaron Indigo. This is not an SGI meeting at all. Johnny Gilbert, the author, he's totally aware that we're doing this, totally proud of us, actually. But he never asked me to do it at all. I'm doing this as my own way of trying to introduce Buddhism to the youth as much as possible. And during these crazy times, how can I use my initiative to spread what I know in a very informal way? I don't want it to be like an SGI meeting. I want it to be very informal, relaxed, and we can talk about anything. I know I'm the only one talking, but... So yeah, let's chant as we always do. I'm going to chant for 5 minutes. I'm also want to let you all know I expect this might go on a little bit longer than usual. It's normally an hour. I reckon I'll know that'll be on till about 8:15. I just want to make sure that I fit the whole first part of this chapter in without kind of splitting it up. So of course, if you need to leave, just leave. It will be uploaded tomorrow at some point. Let's do some Daimoku though. Let's join the quantum field, raise our energy, and then we'll start studying. If you didn't know this, I love you. So yeah, it's 6 past on my MacBook, so I'm going to chant till 10 past. That's 4 minutes. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, 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 Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho 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 Renge Kyo. Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho 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 Renge Kyo. Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho 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 Renge Kyo. Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho 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 Renge Kyo. Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho 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 Renge Kyo. Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho 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 Renge Kyo. Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho 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 Renge Kyo. Renge kyo nam yo ho, 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 renge kyo. Renge kyo nam yo ho, 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 renge kyo. Renge kyo nam yo ho, 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 renge kyo. Thank you, people. So good for you to join us, Maria. So good to see you. Alright, I'm just gonna get a towel because I'm sweating. I just come out of the spa, my body's super hot. Alright, we're gonna go jump straight in. As always, and it's not happened in 12 weeks, but if anyone has a question, please feel free to ask. But other than that, I'm gonna do my thing now, and we're gonna start to study. So bear with me, let me find the document. Okay, so by the way, normally I have, as a lot of you know, I have Chris, my brother, doing the behind the scenes, looking after everything, but he's not with me today, so I'm doing it all alone. So if I'm a bit glitchy, you know I'm a bit glitchy. I find some of the big words slightly difficult, but we out here all trying. All right, cool. Let's go. Let me figure this out. Celeste, thanks for being here, sister. Loving the style today, man. Little choker and ting. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so the Evolving Buddha. Second to last chapter. The next chapter is called The Conclusion. So how amazing are we, man? Sometimes I was on the bus today thinking, I can't believe this is the 12th week. Undisturbed every single time someone's come. Incredible. So before I start this, actually, let me just read the daily guidance real quick. So it is the October the 27th. So it says, this is from my favorite book for today until tomorrow, Daisaku Ikeda, Daily Guidance. Whether we regard difficulties in life as misfortunes or whether we view them as good fortune depends entirely on how much we have forged our inner determination. It all depends on our attitude or inner state of life. We can develop a self of such fortitude that we can look forward to life's trials and tribulations with a sense of profound elation and joy. Come on, obstacles. I've been waiting for you. This is the chance that I've been waiting for. Now you need to have a high vibrational outlook on life to be able to say to obstacles, bring it on, I want more. But truly, as a Buddhist, the more I've studied, the more I understand this. The people that have the most obstacles, we deserve to be the happiest. The people with the most unfortunate karma deserve to be able to transform that, turn poison into medicine. So actually, when you realize that all your obstacles are opportunities for growth, that's why you start looking around, realizing when an obstacle comes, thank you, I'm strong enough to overcome this, to transform poison into medicine. And when you have that life state, it really does change everything, because no longer are you a victim to external circumstances. You always choose to view them obstacles as growth for yourself, and it is pretty life-changing. So anyway, that was the daily guidance for October the 27th. So, chapter 6, Daisaku Ikeda, the bond of mentor and disciple. Now, I want to let you know as well, guys, there's SGI members and Buddhists that have been practicing for 20, 30 years, and they still can't understand the bond of the mentor and disciple. So we really, as I said from the start, we're jumping into the deep end. It's the only way I'll roll, though. And, yeah, any questions, just ask me. So, this is a quote from On Establishing the Correct Teachings for the Peace of the Land by Nichiren Daishonin. He says, a blue fly, if it clings to the tail of a thoroughbred horse, can travel 10,000 miles. And the green ivy that twines around the tall pine can grow to 1,000 feet. So, why have a mentor? The night before I ran the London Marathon, I barely slept a wink. Maybe it was to be expected. I was running on behalf of my school, raising money to build a new hall, and the parent body had been incredibly generous in sponsoring me in the endeavour. A lot of people were anticipating me to complete it, but at 5 a.m. that morning I felt alone and very, very tired. Sitting like a washed out zombie at my local station, waiting for the train to London, I was in a complete daze and had not even had the wherewithal to eat breakfast. Protection came in the form of a fellow runner on the platform who offered me the porridge and banana that he was eating. I started the race very slowly and in a great deal of pain, but as I got into my stride in each quarter of the race, I got faster and faster. In the end, the last 4 miles were my fastest and I finished within 5 hours. I wept with relief when I made it through the finish line. On receiving my medal, I decided I was not going to keep it. I would send it halfway across the world to Japan as a gift to Daisaku Ikeda, the founding president of the Soka Gakkai International, SGI. A few months later, I received a message of gratitude from him and a large book of his colour photographs of nature. So what made a 28-year-old Englishman send a treasured lifetime achievement to an elderly Japanese man who he had never met? By that point in my Buddhist practice, having chanted for 3 or so years, I was developing my understanding of the mentor-disciple relationship and my connection with sensei, which literally means teacher in the Japanese. The concept of a mentor is somewhat alien to the Western mindset, and in addition for SGI members, the living mentor is one man, Daisaku Ikeda. In this chapter, we will look at the logic and development of the mentor-disciple concept to find out why it is so important in Buddhism and what value it brings to the practitioner. We will also place a spotlight on Ikeda's life, achievements and philosophy and unpick why he has been persecuted in his tireless efforts for peace. By again considering the academic research outside of SGI, we can bring a new perspective to the individual most central to the international growth of Nichiren Buddhism and see how his thought too has evolved and crystallized over time. So just to let people know, so it took me, I've been practicing Buddhism 6 years, just. And yeah, I'm very lucky, man. For me, I really resonated with Daisaku Ikeda. I'm very comfortable calling him sensei. You know, I don't like my spirit is very Asian in that sense. But I do understand why there's many members that don't like calling him sensei, or they feel, or there's many members that don't like the idea of him being the mentor. And there's also members that worship sensei, mentor worship, which is absolutely not what should happen. But for me, I really do believe I'm starting to have a profound understanding of what this man has done for us. And so I choose him as my mentor, man. And we'll talk about that more. So who is Daisaku Ikeda? Ikeda is a Tokyoite born in 1928 and raised in the Omori district in Japan capital. Ikeda's father's nickname was Old Diehard, a tribute to his obstinacy. But for most of Ikeda's childhood, his father was bedridden with rheumatitis, I believe that says, leaving his mother and her children to maintain a family business harvesting seaweed, which saw a decline through the 1920s and 30s. As a boy, Ikeda's sister-in-law asked him what he thought to do when he was older. He replied, "I will do something that will astonish the entire Japanese nation." In his interview with Professor Richard Hughes Seeger of Hamilton College, Ikeda bashfully passes the statement off as a typical thing, an edoko, and a colloquial term for one raised in Tokyo, might say. And yet, as his sister-in-law later pointed out, he really did what he said he would. The rise of militarism and the catastrophic involvement of Japan in the Second World War defined Ikeda. All 4 of his elder brothers were sent off to fight in Asia to further Japan's imperial expansionist agenda, and his elder brother, Kichi, never returned from Burma, killed 7 months before the war's end in 1945. Ikeda's sense of mission to eradicate war to forge a truly peaceful world stems from the deep suffering inflicted on his mother and the family at this time. In addition, afflicted with tuberculosis, Ikeda knew his life would be cut short at any moment. It was at this war-ravaged state, questioning the purpose of life, that the young Daisaku was invited in the summer of 1947 to what he thought was a life philosophy talk on the thought of the French philosopher Bergson. In fact, it was his first Soka Gakkai meeting and his first encounter with the man who became his mentor, Jose Toda. Awed by Toda's response to his questions, Toda's conviction and the fact he had stood up against the militarists, Ikeda felt he had found a man he could put his faith in. He became a member of the Soka Gakkai on the 24th of August of that year. Ikeda became president of the Soka Gakkai in 1960, furthering the dynamic expansion of the movement under Toda. His achievements are well recorded. Ikeda stepped out of Japan to expand Nichiren Buddhism overseas and in turn internationalized the teachings centered on peace, culture and education. He engaged in dialogue with a wide range of artists, politicians and scientists to find common grounds towards peace. He established a range of institutes, including the school and university system and various cultural organizations. Above all, he developed a profound philosophy of Buddhist humanism which transcends the confines of the particular school or even a specific religion. A 1999 survey of the Japanese public put him in the top 20 authors in the country. 20 years earlier, another major poll placed him as the sixth most respected individual in Japan, with the only living person in the five ahead of him being the then Emperor Hirohito. A story of his life. The narrative of Ikeda's life and those of many pioneering members who walked along with him is mapped out in his novel The Human Revolution and The New Human Revolution. Now, I actually wanted to show you, I've got The Human Revolution, right, is my favorite book. I think I mentioned it last time when I was 27 years old. I decided that was what I was going to read for my birthday. I actually got a very rare copy of it. Not many people have this version, all 12 series. And so this book is written by Daisaku Ikeda, and it's about his mentor, Jose Toda, and it's called The Human Revolution. And I'll read you the first sentence. It starts, basically the first step that Jose Toda took when he left prison. So the very first sentence is so profound. Nothing is more barbarous than war. Nothing is more cruel, and yet the war dragged on. So yeah, this for Buddhists is almost like a living testament to how much potential we actually have. And it is in these books we really sense the power and strength of what these great men, these Buddhist men and women have been able to do. So there's also The New Human Revolution, which Sensei wrote about himself, about when he left Japan and spread Buddhism across the world. And I haven't even started that book because I really want to study this with my life. I think I'm going to study this until I'm 30 years old, and then I'm going to go on. But anyway, his purpose in writing the series is tied to his own relationship with his mentor. I have taken writing The New Human Revolution as my life's work. In it, I am determined to continue to record, to the limits of my ability, the diamond-like genuine path of mentor and disciple, and depict the grand portrait of glory created by the precious children of the Buddha as they have advanced. Truth and falsehood, good and evil, winners and losers, all will be vigorously depicted. I cannot help thinking that President Toda is steadfastly watching me. The fact that the work is novelized and that the author acknowledges characters may have been combined for ease of narrative have been criticized by detractors as producing revisionist history. However, as Clark Strand, the pan-Buddhist author, points out, the story-like retelling of the Soka Gakkai movement is foundational in creating a gospel for SGI, a coherent narrative for the movement of mentor and disciple, and which epitomizes in its essence the spirit of Buddhist humanism to inspire future generations. As Ikeda has often pointed out, you are the scriptwriter of your own life. Recent research has supported this approach. The American author Emily Asfahani Smith states, "We are constantly taking pieces of information and adding a layer of meaning to them. We wouldn't function otherwise. Stories help us make sense of the world and our place in it, and understand why things happen the way they do." George Harrison once said that everyone had a different idea of what it was like being a Beatle, and that applied even to the Beatles themselves, even if they were experiencing the same moment. In this light, one understands that all history, all journalism comes from a particular perspective, and the Human Revolution and the New Human Revolution series creates a specific narrative aimed at offering a perspective which inspires readers to take action, modelled in a similar vein, in the same spirit. Dan McAdams of Northwestern University advocates that we all have a narrative identity, described by another author as about who we are deep down, where we come from, how we got this way, and what it all means. This is our own personal myth, and it is biased on our interpretation of events that have happened to us, which can naturally differ from how others view the same events. It is this interpretive quality that has allowed psychologists to encourage the reframing of tragic or traumatizing events from contamination stories to redemptive narratives. Meaning and value can be gleaned from suffering and hardship, something which very much resonates with the Buddhist concept of turning poison into medicine. In a study from 2012, Adam Grant and Jane Dutton found that when university call centers fundraisers were asked to write a journal recounting the times they contributed to others at work, they made 30% more calls than those who had been asked to write narratives about being passive recipients of generosity. Our personal narratives can affect our psychology and our actual behaviors. So the New Human Revolution is not merely a positive angle on the SGI movement. It provides a coherent narrative of the mentors and disciples of Soka, and in doing so provides a benchmark, a model on how to behave to fully reveal oneself, one's Buddha nature. It should finally be noted that, as was pointed out in a previous chapter, this does not mean that the narrative avoids tackling the problems, difficulties and mistakes that took place on this journey. These are equally brought up, including the most controversial events which will be considered later in this chapter. A Youthful Diary. So this, I've also got this book here. I haven't finished it. This is A Youthful Diary. That is Daisaku Ikeda when he was in his teens. This book blows me away. So this book is literally his actual diary at the time that he, first met Buddhism. I'm just going to read one random small thing. Let me see what I can just let me just see. It can't be too long. So Monday, February the 22nd, fine weather, 1954, 4 years before Jose Toda passed away. I arrived at Shinagawa Station about 7:10 in the morning. Secretary Y and I saw President Toda in his home in Meguro. Sensei treated us to breakfast and gave us guidance on various matters for about 40 minutes. Went to Miwa Printing Company at 7 in the evening to proofread the Gosho. Returned home at midnight. Very simple, but it's so profound. And it's in this that we realize he's a human. He's not someone that should be like, he's not some deity. He had his own problems, his own karma. He was transforming things. And again, that's why I really chose him as a mentor. He's absolutely not special in that sense. He's proving to us ordinary, normal people can reveal the highest life state of Buddhahood. When you take the teachings of the Gosho, you're chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, you can transform and really reveal your highest potential. So that's why this book is so epic. It's like reading his heart when he was a teenager. So we're going to read about that now. A Youthful Diary. As a roadmap for Buddhist practice, the new human revolution is preeminent. However, to get a more intimate and visceral account of the young Daisaku Ikeda, his A Youthful Diary allows the reader to feel the emotions and heart of this young man. What comes across are his sincerity, his values, his sufferings and his frailties. The honesty of the entries is refreshing. Here is someone to look up to who is not perfect, who has felt weakness, illness and fear, like all of us. I'm going to read that one more time. Here is someone to look up to who is not perfect, who has felt weakness, illness and fear, like all of us. I've mentioned before, I've been involved in Hindu communities and stuff like that, and there's people at the very top of these communities, they wouldn't even talk about illness. They can't allow themselves to be seen weak. And it never resonated with me, because I knew, brother, you was born in a hospital just like me. I don't understand. But, they make themselves like living deities. So one more time, here is someone to look up to who is not perfect, who has felt weakness, illness and fear, like all of us. 2 years into practicing, on June the 13th, 1949, Ikeda writes, so this is from the book, had a headache since morning, had to take better care of myself. My mind changes from one moment to the next. I know what my goals are, but I waver at all the same. Pathetic. One moment, I'm in high spirits, bursting with youthful intensity, and the next moment, I'm as petrified as though I was standing on the edge of a cliff. But he rouses himself in the same entry, admonishing himself. Youth, stand up, advance, otherwise there will be no human revolution. Plunge into the whirlpool of reality and fight. Fear nothing. Remember your great mission. Over 10 years later, in April 1960, a few days before assuming the presidency of the Soka Gakkai, Ikeda is still emotionally torn regarding whether or not to accept it. On the 9th of April, he writes, is there no one else who can take leadership in place of my tired, worn-out self? Have no one to talk to. My wife quietly watches over me in agony. But by the 15th of April, he had overcome his fears and resolved to accept the role. He says, I was raised by President Toda as his direct disciple. He trained me continually and repeatedly. How could I fear any battle? The time for me to repay my debt of gratitude to him has come. I find the honesty and humanity of Ikeda in A Youthful Diary empowering. Here is a mentor who goes through suffering, who is tough on himself, but who also holds high ideals and follows through on them. Just as he could place his trust in Toda, I can place my trust in him. I totally resonate with why Johnny said that. Our preconceptions of mentor and disciple. So this is where we're going to start to challenge. But why do we need a mentor, man? Like, surely we can just chant and like read and do it by ourselves. Let's see. So, but why bother to have a mentor? And what exactly does having a mentor mean? These are questions prevalent in the Western mindset, in which the concept is not culturally embedded. In fact, the idea of mentor and disciple can seem frightening, even threatening to a Westerner. The term mentor is generally only used on a professional basis in the West, such as supporting trainees in a job, and the word disciple is associated in European and American minds with the 12 disciples of Jesus, who gave up everything to follow him. Combine these two cultural dependents with suspicion of Eastern gurus who have manipulated and extorted followers, plus the strident individualism of modern first world societies, and you have a recipe for misunderstanding for SGI's emphasis on the mentor-disciple relationship. Lawrence Carter, Dean of Martin Luther King Jr. International Chapel, Morehouse College, King's alma mater, describes a trend towards spiritual individualism, where one can choose an idea from this tradition, a ritual from that one, to fashion a wholly individual, even idiosyncratic spiritual worldview. While our spiritual journey is personal and requires looking within ourselves, Carter argues that something is lost when we are not practicing with a community of believers. Something we examined in the last chapter. And that's when I was talking about last week. We, as bodhisattvas, as people, indigo children, as spirits on this planet, remember, we are like a bunch of potatoes with the skins on in a bag. And by rubbing against all the other potatoes, that's how we polish and take the skins off. It's only by being in a community. It's only by practicing spirituality and sharing our light with other people do we truly step into our true path, our true mission, our true Buddhahood. That's how we reveal it. And I've seen it time and time again when people only practice for themselves. They only do yoga for themselves. It's all individual. It leads down a very egoic path, or it's very easy to be swayed by what we call in Buddhism the 8 winds. So, while our spiritual journey is personal and requires nothing looking within ourselves, Carter argues that something is lost when we are not practicing with a community of believers, something we examined in the last chapter. Furthermore, he questions how individual such a journey really is. We are always taking inspiration from those who have walked a path before us. What is the mentor-disciple relationship? Across all forms of Buddhism, the mentor-disciple relationship has been an essential element from the foundational days of Shakyamuni Buddha. Clark Strachan asserts that this reflects the Buddhist understanding of the interdependence of all life. Individualism is a delusion which risks us falling into isolation, when in fact we stand or fall based on the quality of our relationships to others and to the world. Let me say that again. That is a beautiful sentence. We stand or fall based on the quality of our relationship to others and to the world. No one of us exists alone. It is wholly inaccurate to treat SGI's development of the mentor-disciple relationship as a completely new innovation. It is in fact an essential part of all Eastern spiritual traditions in varying forms. Nichiren's letters are permeated with the spirit of the mentor-disciple relationship, none more so than when he states, "My wish is that all my disciples make a great vow." Nichiren had made his own vow, and at the risk of his own life to uphold the philosophy of the Lotus Sutra, he now wanted his disciples to do the same and share this lofty task. Mentor-disciple is a relationship of trust, of learning, and spiritual inspiration. As is often stated in SGI, it is the disciple who chooses the mentor, and it is the mentor who desires the disciple to exceed him in his personal growth and achievements. Outside perspectives often misunderstand the respect Ikeda is held in as veneration. However, the respect and value one holds for the mentor in SGI is not to put him on a pedestal, but at its heart, to catalyze individual empowerment for the disciple. When Strachan interviewed pioneering members who had been directly mentored by Ikeda, none of them praised him merely for his personal qualities, but associated his inspiration and encouragement with their own life transformations. The mentor-disciple relationship is essential for the relaying and endurance of great teachings and philosophies. This is, in a sense, why the relationship in SGI is focused on Ikeda as the mentor. For multiple mentors across the world who may not live up to this standard could muddy the clarity and consistency of the essential philosophical underpinnings of Buddhist humanism as developed by Ikeda. Socrates, Plato and Aristotle are a classical Western example of this tradition. This focus does not mean that there cannot be a culture of inspiration between SGI members as well, through the mutual support and guidance they receive on a local level. Furthermore, in following a teacher's life example, we do not lose our individuality, but challenge our egoistic tendency to already know all the answers. This takes courage, not submissiveness. How has the mentor-disciple relationship evolved in SGI? As with every concept we have looked at in this book, the mentor-disciple relationship has evolved as SGI has developed over the decades. For Ikeda, his own relationship with his sensei, Josei Toda, was forged from the outset of his practice, and that first meeting with Toda in the summer of 1947. In that moment, he chose to absolutely believe Toda's words and take him as his mentor. This could be contrasted with the Western approach, which would be to pick and choose the statement or ideas we personally find appealing. But such an approach stultifies growth by limiting our choices to what we already know and perceive. Instead, by absolutely trusting him, Ikeda regards his 10 years of mentorship by Toda as the source of everything he has achieved and became. The very first entry in A Youthful Diary from the 31st of May 1949 includes the line, must advance towards the dawn, never wavering in my conviction, following my lifelong, no, my eternal mentor. Many later passages show how keenly Ikeda felt to aim to fulfill his mentor's expectations, calling out to him, "Mr. Toda, no matter what, I will fight till the last moment. Please wait a little longer. Please don't misjudge me. You'll see." In 1954, he writes, "A lifelong mentor makes me profoundly happy. No honor in the world compares to that of having a lifelong mentor." In post-war Japan, the culture of mentorship was a universal creed embedded in society for masters and mistresses in tea ceremonies and calligraphy in martial arts and flower arranging. Toda became the Soka Gakkai members' sensei, teacher, and on his passing, Ikeda became the new mentor over time. In writing The Human Revolution in the mid-1960s, Ikeda developed the concept of mentor and disciple and the oneness of mentor and disciple. Oneness meant a perfect unity or fusion. For Shinichi, Ikeda's name in the novel, so Daisaku Ikeda calls himself Shinichi Yamamoto whenever he's referring to himself in a novel. It's his pen name. So for Shinichi, everything started from his oneness with Toda, the oneness in the depths of their minds. Ikeda was therefore elucidating the difference between mentorship, when one merely follows instructions and learns from someone, and the spiritual bond of mentor and disciple, which involves deeply connecting with the heart of the mentor and following his actions in his spirit. Outside Japan, the mentor-disciple relationship was something less explicit in the foundational decades of SGI, at least for local members. It was clearly expounded during the expansive growth phase of the American organisation in the early 1970s, but was less prevalent in the British movement, perhaps because the UK organisation did not start to grow to any great extent until the 1980s. This lack of emphasis on Ikeda as mentor may have been in part because it was distinctively unfamiliar to Westerners. However, I believe it is more likely a result of the relationship with the Nichiren Shoshu priesthood in the late 1970s and 1980s. The priests did not want to afford Ikeda any special status in comparison to their high priest, given the difficulties between the priests and lay organizations that led to Ikeda's resignation from the Soka Gakkai presidency in 1979. During this time, however, Ikeda was president of SGI and an inspirational figure for overseas members. For example, Gary McCarthy's book Daisaku Ikeda, Ambassador of Peace, published by the American organization in 1984, affords great respect to Ikeda's achievements and personal character. He is described as confidant and counselor to millions of SGI members, but there is no reference to the mentor-disciple relationship anywhere in the book. The split with the Nichiren Shoshu priesthood afforded SGI the opportunity of bringing mentor-disciple relationship back to the forefront. Beginning in the mid-1990s and fully developed in the 2000s, Ikeda as the mentor has become an essential aspect of SGI Buddhism around the world. This is tied to the idea of successors and the transmission of the teachings to future generations. As Ikeda states in the Wisdom of the Lotus Sutra, after discussing the oneness of mentor and disciple, in a broader sense, no important undertaking, no movement, nothing of truly great import can be completed in a single generation. For some older members, attached to the teachings as they were espoused in the 1980s, the change can be unwelcome. However, I would argue that, like all the developments we have noted in this book, this is a worthwhile evolution. The teachings, with a lack of emphasis on the mentor-disciple relationship at that time, were no more a traditional orthodoxy than any other point in the evolving continuum of Buddhism. We all good, yeah? Maria, give me some love, man. Thank you. Nichiren Buddhism on a different, darker path. In understanding and appreciating the mentor-disciple relationship, it may be useful to consider what SGI would be like without it. Clark Strand hypothesizes that without Toda following his mentor into prison, a revived Soka Kyoka Gakkai would have continued to be a limited educational reform movement after the war, if any of Makuguchi's other followers had tried to reignite it. Do you remember I've told you, there's 3 presidents of the Soka Gakkai. Tsunenobu Makuguchi started the Soka Gakkai, but he called it the Soka Kyokai Gakkai in 1930. But he was more based on like reforming education. But he was Jose Toda's mentor, and he gave everything to Toda, and Toda took the teachings and then he made it, instead of just about how do we reform education, how do we reform the human spirit. So he took it wow. And then, but he did that just in Japan. He died in 1958. He was 58 because he was born in 1900, and then he passed everything on, the baton, onto Daisaku Ikeda, who became the president of the Soka Gakkai, and then he became the president and created the Soka Gakkai International, and he took it worldwide. So, Let me carry on. Furthermore, SGI's particular brand of Nichiren Buddhism, humanistic, universalist, tolerant, and cross-cultural, is not an automatic given. This has come about through the inspiration and leadership of the 3 founding presidents. When people are suspicious of the respect afforded to Makaguchi, Toda, and Ikeda, the connection between their actions and the teachings and the warm, dynamic, and compassionate discussion meetings that participants are involved in is rarely understood. To illustrate this, it is useful to highlight that it is not inevitable, if you follow Nichiren Buddhism, that you would end up with an inclusive, peace-orientated model such as SGI. This is thanks to Ikeda. This really blew me away. So I was reading this on the bus back today, and I remembered this, but this is basically what we're going to talk about now. If Daisaku Ikeda was like demonic, and he wanted to lead Buddhism a different way, and this man, it actually did happen. So the case of Chigaku Tanaka, 1861 to 1939, shows how Nichiren Buddhism led by the wrong man can go down a far darker path. In creating an interpretation called Nichirenism, Tanaka manipulated Nichiren Buddhist philosophy to support the nationalistic ideas and the militarist expansion that dominated Japan in the 1930s. He set up a society and lectured around the country, associating the spread of the Lotus Sutra with the unification of the world under Japanese rule and the reverence for the emperor. This is in stark contrast to Makaguchi's rejection of militarism at around the same time. Because remember, Tsunuru Makaguchi went to prison because the military were trying to make him like teach Buddhism in a certain way that would, be in favor of the Japanese emperor, and they also wanted him to install like these talismans. Like he basically, like in a nutshell, they wanted him to, like, for instance, pray to like a statue of the Buddha instead of the Gohonzon. And he said, blood clot, I mean, I deal with that. And he left. He said no, and he went to prison. Yeah. And he went to prison, and Jose Todo followed him. So this person, around the same time in the 1930s, he did the opposite. He shook hands with Boris Johnson. It was like, tell me what I need to do. I'm going to do it. I don't care. So this is what we're talking about. Tanaka's ideas not only supported the motives of the Japanese imperial war machine, at times they inspired some of the decisive moments in the conflict. A notable example is that of Kanji Ishiwara, an operation officer in the Japanese forces stationed in the early 1930s in Manchuria, China, who was a follower of Tanaka. Believing in a warped militarist version of Nichirenism, Ishiwara instigated the Manchuria incident on September the 18th and 19th, 1931, when the Chinese garrison was attacked. Although not authorized by his superiors, the action played into sentiment at home towards a more aggressive policy in China. Ishiwara was made a hero, and the government became committed to a military takeover of Manchuria, which would lead to a tragic Japanese invasion of much of East Asia in World War II. The extreme difference in interpretation of Nichiren's mandate by the pre-war Nichirenists elucidates the importance of following a good teacher and a wise teaching, but also makes clear how easy it is to fall into arbitrary and conflicting reinterpretations without clear guidance. So basically, around the same time, 1930s, Tsunuru Makaguchi, Jose Todo, they clearly went one way, and someone else read the same Gosho. Well, the Gosho, actually, that's incorrect. The Gosho wasn't actually created. It was created by Tsunuru Makaguchi, Jose Todo, Daisaku Ikeda. But like the writings of Nichiren were about, so this man Tanaka took the writings of Nichiren Daishonin and he interpreted them the way he wanted to. And he was obviously not coming from Buddhahood. He was coming from a lower life state. So his interpretation was from the lower chakras. So hopefully you can understand how powerful it is to make sure you have someone to reveal the truth, the highest potential of the teachings. So, Eastern and Western perceptions. In considering the mentor and disciple relationship, Clark Strand describes a dialogue he had with a New York University professor who was a leading researcher on the neuroscience of meditation. They compared notes on the difference in interviewing American and Asian Buddhists about their Buddhist practice. The difference was this. A person raised in America would speak frankly and openly about their individual experience of Buddhism and the spiritual benefits they felt they had gained from it. Ask someone raised in Asia, and they would speak about their teacher, the spiritual mentor who had taught them the practice and the benefits of their relationship with that person. If they had experienced significant growth, gains or improvements in their life, these would be explained in the context of that relationship, as if the relationship itself had been what made these things happen. Despite this stark cultural difference, Westerners have come to understand the mentor and disciple relationship within SGI and to choose Ikeda as their mentor. Orlando Bloom, the Hollywood actor, and I don't deal with the Hollywood people too much, but let's listen. Orlando Bloom, the Hollywood actor, is a practicing SGI Buddhist who had chosen Ikeda as his sensei. In his filmed recount of his encounter with Ikeda, Bloom describes the warmth, positive regard, and even strictness of his dialogue with Ikeda. He describes Ikeda's authenticity and how he found a true connection with his heart and spirit, which encouraged Bloom to embrace his own authenticity. What is even more notable is that renowned figures outside SGI and from diverse religious traditions have not only appreciated the mentor-disciple tradition, but have also even chosen Ikeda as a mentor in their lives. Lawrence Carter, Dean at Morehouse College and protector of the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., has even written a book about his relationship with Ikeda. This one, I can't wait. I need to buy this one. A Baptist Preacher's Buddhist Teacher. Carter elucidates his path of discipleship with Martin Luther King, Jesus, and Ikeda. Being a disciple is not the same as joining a club. It is not as simple as declaring allegiance or choosing a side. It is a purposeful decision to try to understand the greater vision held by the mentor and to try to actualize that vision in their own life. Let me read that one more time. I need to read it to myself. Being a disciple is not the same as joining a club. It's not like just joining David Lloyd's. It is not as simple as declaring allegiance or choosing a side. It is a purposeful decision to try to understand the greater vision held by a mentor and to try to actualize that vision in our own life. The decision to be a disciple is fundamentally a choice about the values, virtues, and the vision of victory we have for ourselves in the world and how to avoid vices. On the other side of the world, this name is an intense one. N. Radhakrishnan, chairman of the Indian Council of Gandhian Studies, New Delhi, has extolled the efficiency of the mentor-disciple relationship, writing his own book, Ikeda Sensei, The Triumph of Mentor and Disciple. Radhakrishnan acknowledges the challenge the concept faces. Sorry, let me read that again. Radhakrishnan acknowledges the challenge the concept face from Western thinking as contrary to rational, critical, scientific inquiry. But he counters that the mentor-disciple relationship is far from exotic or irrational and that all great individuals have a mentor, citing the example of Gandhi and how he affected change in his disciples, including the founding father of modern India, Jawaharlal Nehru. I definitely didn't say that name right. What sustains the mentor-disciple relationship is the devotion and understanding. Devotion to the ideas and the ideas the mentor represents, and admiration on the part of the mentor of the essential qualities of the disciple, states Radhakrishnan. He further clarifies the practical logic in having a mentor. The human mind, which Gandhi describes as a restless bird, needs spiritual nourishment and proper anchoring. The inner turmoil needs proper management so that the boat does not turn over or capsize. It is here the role of an experienced boatsman in the form of a mentor or one who has mastered the forces which govern the mind, body and spirit comes in. So I often, sometimes whenever I feel lost or I need help to raise my life state, I will go to, Sensei's writings, Daisaku Ikeda's writings. There's a book called Faith into Action, and like if it's like relationships I need advice on, or parents or work, you go to that section and read a quote. And it's very much, to me, I always see him as like the lighthouse, or it says it even more. It is here that the role of an experienced boatsman, that's all he is. He's not my father, he's not God, he's an experienced Buddhist, the most experienced Buddhist on the planet, the only person to fully, there's many others that he's trained, but he's like, he's the person that's really put it on. So he's a shining example of how to lift yourself out of different karmas and situations. That's all it is. It's an incredible lighthouse to have when life gets really stormy. So 3 more pages, guys, and then we're done for today. My experience of developing the mentor-disciple relationship. For most SGI members, if not all, their relationship with Daisaku Ikeda as their mentor is a developing journey rather than an immediate and absolute outcome of beginning to practice SGI Buddhism. As we have seen, there is considerable conditioning in the West that must be challenged and reflected upon before engaging with having a mentor in Buddhism. And so it was with my own experience. In my first couple of years of practicing, I would often tell people I found Soka Gakkai President Tsutsuburu Makaguchi the most appealing of the 3 presidents, the scholarly primary head teacher who looked like a kindly grandfather. It took some time of studying Ikeda's writings, but more importantly, hearing others' experience of their relationship with Sensei for me to begin to approach taking Ikeda as my mentor. I had the good fortune of being part of the SGI UK Youth Division for 10 years. And in that time, had the opportunity to receive training as a dedicated soccer. So that's what I'm in. I'm in a SGI Youth Division, and I do dedicated soccer. I've been doing it for like 3 years now. It's a group for young men who would give support with the organisation of major Buddhist activities. So if you ever see me do it, like wearing like a white shirt and a red tie, that's me doing dedicated soccer. We would also study together and have talks given by youth leaders. One highlight was a course in a hostel high up in the mountains of the Lake District in northern England, where we profoundly shared, bonded and sang songs around the campfire. I remember one lecture at such an event by our then Soka chief, later youth division leader, which particularly moved my heart when he relayed his connection with Sensei, which brought him to tears. I finally resolved to make Ikeda my mentor and told the young men's division leaders that this was now my vow. Although I have never met Ikeda, this vow of mentor and disciple has been an essential part of the expansion of my life in the intervening decades. I always tried to end my daimoku in the morning with connecting to Ikeda's heart and to act as he would in the challenges to come that day. In particular, in nerve-wracking situations, such as speaking in front of a large hall of people, imagining Ikeda standing next to me soothes my fears. Having a mentor has, for example, been instrumental in how I respond to the many challenges thrown at me at work during the COVID-19 crisis, from different parents and stressed staff to major logistical issues in reorganizing my school to be COVID safe. I reached for Ikeda's guidance and chanted to take action as his disciple, rather than from a place of ego and fear. The actual proof came in successfully and safely returning all pupils to school by the end of the summer term, when many schools in the UK remained shut, bringing staff and parents on board through dialogue and support. A relationship of choice and freedom. Above all, the mentor-disciple relationship should be understood as based on choice and freedom. The scholar Richard Hughes Seeger interviewed Daisaku Ikeda and the then president of the Soka Gakkai in the early 2000s regarding the mentor-disciple relationship, who told him, "It's really the disciple's choice and decision to follow the mentor's vision. In response, it is the mentor's wish to raise and foster the disciple so that he can become a greater person than the mentor himself. His wish is to pull him up to where he is, or even surpass him. It is the right spirit of the disciple to earnestly absorb as much as possible from the mentor." So for instance, I've got like a physical mentor in my life. His name's, I won't say his name, but he's like a 74-year-old, one of the first ever black Buddhists in the UK. Now, obviously, we both have Daisaku Ikeda as our mentor, but in my life, he's like a physical mentor to me. And so we read this sentence again. It is the right spirit of the disciple to earnestly absorb as much as possible from the mentor. So I see in my relationship with this man who's like my father, my uncle, my older brother, he's all like, if you've been chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, one of the first people in the UK to chant that, you've gone through the karma that I haven't even begun to even experience. So therefore, I'm going to try and earnestly absorb as much as possible from you. And then if he's doing that, so if, like, I'm thinking, so who's his mentor? He's getting it from Daisaku Ikeda. So the fact we both have the same mentor, but then I have him as a physical example, you know, someone that's walked the path of Buddhism like 5 decades longer than I have. Of course, it would be foolish. It would be egoic for me to think I've got all the answers. So I hope even in that relationship with me and this man, you can see how it's so important to have someone that's walked the path, someone that loves you, someone he wants to pass the baton on to me. He doesn't want me to be capped and be under him. He would much rather I'm much further and to achieve everything he didn't achieve. That's what it means to have an incredible, inspirational person in your life. Whatever practice, whether if you're a yoga teacher, you want this incredible to have someone who's like 10 times better than you or more in tune with it so that you can have someone to lean on. If you're a singer, you want to be taught by someone who's even better than you. You understand? But it's the Western mind state that makes like, oh, mentor, disciple. It's very scary. Like you said, Jesus. You're thinking of Jesus and his 12 disciples that gave up everything. They almost had like a slave mentality that has nothing to do with Buddhism. So one more time, it is the right spirit of the disciple to earnestly absorb as much as possible from the mentor. Last section. In 1967, Ikeda explained the non-hierarchical and participatory aspect of this approach by stating, Soka Gakkai, and this is the leader of the Soka Gakkai saying this, yeah? Soka Gakkai has no leader who is absolute and supreme. Both the members and myself are comrades, moving forward towards the common objective of Kosen Rufu. Remember, Kosen Rufu basically means world peace through the transformation of each individual, remembering who we are as gods and kings and queens. That's Kosen Rufu. It's not just one man convincing everyone. It's not Donald Trump saving all the kids. It's every single individual person remembering who we truly are. That's Kosen Rufu. That's what will bring world peace, the butterfly effect. So I will read what Sensei said one more time. Soka Gakkai has no leader who is absolute and supreme. Both the members and myself are comrades, moving forward towards the common objective of Kosen Rufu. This is the reason why I receive the members' support and cooperation, to build the solidarity that gives the Soka Gakkai the power to develop. By the way, guys, we're going to finish at 8 o'clock, just to let you know. We won't be over. The bond of mentor and disciple is a heart-to-heart connection, a spiritual transmission at its basis. I love that. The bond of mentor and disciple is a heart-to-heart connection, a spiritual transmission at its basis. However, it is also a means of sharing an integrated philosophical position which ensures the unity of a religion and its furtherance in the world without the risk of fragmentation, discord, and the creation of a variety of arbitrary views. As we have considered with the case of Nichirenism in the 1920s and the 1930s, any philosophy can take a turn towards darkness and hatred. Holding fast to SGI's interpretation of Nichiren Buddhism, as advised by Ikeda, protects the community of believers from this risk. Boom. So yeah, that's basically, in a nutshell. And we've still got 2 parts to that chapter, I believe, or we might be able to do the second half. Oh yeah, Big Kez, yeah, want to turn on the light? Want to turn on the webcam now? Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, whether it's not about considering yourself a disciple, I've got this mentor. It's very much about, do you have people, like, let me dull it down a bit. Show me 5 of your friends, I'll show you your future. 100%. If all your friends are drug dealers and prostitutes and or low energy, that's going to kind of, you're going to that's going to wrap up on you somewhere. Joanne, yeah? I see you driving. I love you. Be safe though. So yeah. Show me 5 of your friends, I'll show you your future. If your friends are always, getting effed up and taking drugs, nothing wrong with that, by the way. I have fun. But if all your friends are like that, then of course. So Daisaku Ikeda is my friend. He's one of my, I might not physically, but you know what I mean? My mentors, my Buddhist friends. Chris, one of my closest friends on the planet, strict Buddhist. Yeah, strict. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Make sure you're seeking higher vibrational friends now. Remember the tattoo I'm getting, yeah? Cast off the transient, reveal the true. Cast off anyone, and this is with love and compassion. And this doesn't mean that they it doesn't mean that they're wrong. It just means that they no longer resonate. You're no longer playing in the same playground. I choose to be in a different playground now. That's all it is. We send so much love to the people that have hurt us and our abusers, because it's everything that we are today. And we forgive them. But we're now ready to evolve. Show me 5 of your friends, I'll show you your future. Who are the people around you that are inspiring you? Are your friends, when you're having communication in the group chats on WhatsApp and Telegram, do you feel inspired when they're sending you messages, or are they taking something from you? A lot of people are only chatting to you because there's something that they can take from you, and they don't even mean to do this, by the way. More times they don't realize that the only reason they're chatting to you is because maybe there's something that I can gain from this, or let me keep this person a little bit sweet so that when this time comes, they're gonna be able to owe me back the favor. That's not friendship. That's a lie. That's not real, and that's why I don't really have many friends no more. I have many friends. You're all closer to me, and I've not even met most of you, than most of my actual people I went to high school with and stuff. It's for being a catwalk model, going to high school and stuff. There's a lot of things that people want from me that oh man, can you give me a repost? You got a lot of followers, Indigo. Oh, can you send me some free pine? You know what I mean? Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. That's me just making this. I'm really trying to make the concept of mentor disciple understandable in the West. Like yesterday I did an event with my living mentor. Like I said, 74 years old, man. He looks me in the eyes and he's like, and I can tell what it means to for someone to pass the baton on to you. I don't want to copy what you've done. I want to continue the same legacy. I don't want to be like you. I want to be the best version of myself, because you're the best version of yourself. You understand? It's not about copying your friends. It's about that person is so unapologetically themselves that surely that means that I'm unapologetically myself, because everyone's a reflection of me. We're not all the same. We're not all wearing we're not all going out looking like slaves, buying the same clothing. Be unapologetically yourself. Ground yourself in your truth. And what I feel, if you do have kind of shitty friends or bad circles, the best thing you can do is work on yourself. Don't jump in no relationship with someone you don't even know about who you really are right now. Fully go inwards. You understand? Fully start to ask questions, the difficult questions. If you've got difficult questions, why don't I feel happy when I'm with this person? Or blah, blah, blah. And then only then will your vibration be pure and clear and high vibrating that you'll start to meet them in your life. You'll be sitting in the sauna and some woman will start chatting to you. And you're like, what? Like, me and you are vibrating the exact same. What the hell? But that's because the day before, I wasn't vibrating that pure. But today, I chose to vibrate that pure. So everything is a mirror. It's always talking to you. And most people don't like to know that, man. Because they're almost like, wait, I'm not sure about that, mate. I promise you, everything is a mirror. And the more you offer your uniqueness to the universe at this time, the more you will be supported by true friends. And you'll have like mentors in friends, you know? Even like, I've got friends that are younger than me. They're young mentors. I'm like, wow, you blow me away. I don't keep people around me that will lower my vibration. Anyway, let's chant one time. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and I will love you and leave you. I don't want to take more than a minute of your time. We feeling good though, yeah? We alright? We surviving this week? It's a mad one. It's a mad one. Remember, everything's gonna change. That's why I'm doing this, so that we can be the strongest that we can be. Undefeated. Toya, I appreciate you so much. I just got your beautiful messages. So much love to you and your mother. Remember who you are. Powerful queens. Alright, 3 times we're gonna chant, yeah? Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. I love you. Thank you so much, man, for supporting me. Stand in your authenticity, man. It's the same message from me for 12 weeks. Yeah. Reveal who you truly are now. We did not incarnate to feel small, to be bullied by other people, to have our own authentic views trampled on. We did not incarnate for this reason. We are the leaders. We are the trailblazers. And it requires a lot of isolation and being on your own. So please know that I love you. Please know that you're all in my prayers. Please know this is just the start. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. I love you so much. Stay happy. See you next week. Hopefully I got my neck tat then.